It was supposed to be a quiet weekend. Just me, some peace, and the calm of my family's old lake cabin tucked deep in the woods. I had barely unpacked my bag and set my phone on silent when she appeared. Karen from the HOA, you could hear her heels crunching over the gravel before you saw her, arms folded, lips pursed like she'd bitten into a lemon. I didn't even know the HOA had any authority out here. Miles away from the main road and surrounded by nothing but trees and water. But that didn't stop her. She didn't bother with a hello. Instead, she marched straight up the steps like she owned the place and pointed a finger at me. "You need to open this cabin to the community," she snapped. "This lake is shared property, and you're being selfish." Blinked. Shared property. My grandfather built this cabin in the 70s. It's never been part of any shared anything. I calmly explained that it was private land, handed down through generations. But Karen didn't care about that. She said she'd already sent emails, filed a complaint, and that the HOA was reviewing it. That's when things took a strange turn. Because just before I could respond, a voice called from inside the cabin. Not just any voice. A deep, calm, commanding voice that made Karen's eyes go wide. The screen door creaked open. And out stepped a man in a plain flannel shirt and jeans. One of the last people you'd expect to find tucked away in a remote cabin like this. Karen's jaw dropped. She went pale and completely froze, like someone had unplugged her. I had no idea what was happening until the man calmly said, "Is there a problem here?" And just like that, the mood shifted. Because that man, the one who had just woken up in the guest room, was the sitting governor of the state. And that's when the real story began. Karen didn't say a word. Her mouth opened, then closed again, as if her brain was buffering. I could tell she recognized him instantly. I mean, it's not every day you run into the governor, especially in a lakeside cabin, wearing slippers and still rubbing sleep from his eyes. He gave me a small nod, like he was used to this kind of thing. I just stood there, trying to figure out how exactly this day had taken such a strange turn. Let me back up a little. This cabin has been in my family for decades. We don't rent it out, we don't list it online, and we definitely don't invite HOA board members over for coffee. My dad left it to me last year, and I'd been slowly fixing it up on weekends. The place is a hidden gem, sitting quietly on the edge of Lake Willow, surrounded by forest. No neighbors for miles at least, that's what I thought, until Karen suddenly popped up, claiming shared access rights. Turns out, nearby luxury development was recently built about a mile through the woods. Fancy homes, golf carts, community. Watch the whole deal. And apparently, Karen had somehow gotten herself elected president of their new HOA. From what she told me, she believed my cabin fell within their community recreational zone. I didn't even know such a thing existed. And I wasn't about to hand over my keys to satisfy her weekend getaway plans. But what rattled her wasn't just my refusal. It was the man standing behind me. You could feel the power shift the moment he stepped out. The way Karen quickly lowered her voice, the way she started second-guessing her words. And as for me, I had 1,000 questions racing through my head. Why was the governor here? Why now? And what exactly had I just gotten pulled into? Because one thing was clear. This wasn't just about a cabin anymore. The governor didn't say much after asking if there was a problem. Just gave Karen that kind of calm stare that said he was used to dealing with people who didn't know when to stop talking. She quickly tried to backpedal, pretending like this was just a casual visit, that she was checking in on behalf of the HOA to ensure safety along the lake. But you could hear the crack in her voice. She was nervous, caught off guard, and suddenly unsure of her authority. Still, she didn't leave. She stood there on the porch like she was debating whether to push harder or retreat. The thing about people like Karen, they don't like to lose. And now that her little power play had backfired, I could see her eyes scanning the place like she was searching for a new angle. That's when she noticed the black SUV parked out back, partially hidden behind the trees. It wasn't mine. It definitely wasn't hers. Her eyes narrowed. "I just find it odd," she muttered, "that someone would invite a state official here without notifying the association. There are rules about guests on shared land." The governor, still calm, replied, "This isn't shared land. This is private property. I'm here as a friend, not a politician." His tone wasn't angry, just firm enough to shut the door on any more HOA talk. But it didn't stop Karen. She tried again, this time hinting that she might involve the county zoning office, claiming the cabin might not be up to code. Meanwhile, I was still trying to process how the governor had even ended up here. Truth is, my dad and he were old army buddies. I didn't even know they kept in touch after all these years. Turns out he needed a place to lay low for a few days, something about political tension, private meetings, and avoiding the media. So now, somehow, I was caught between a nosy HOA president determined to take control of my land and estate, official who clearly wasn't here just for fishing. Something bigger was going on, and the cabin had just become ground zero. Karen didn't leave. Not after being told this was private land. Not even after recognizing the governor. She lingered by the porch rail like she was hoping to catch something, maybe a slip-up, a hint of why he was really there. Her polite mask was slipping fast, replaced by the kind of stubborn energy that makes people dig in even when they're wrong. And the longer she stood there, the more I realized this wasn't just about HOA rules anymore. Something about the governor's presence had flipped a switch in her. Inside, the air was tense. The governor had gone back in, but I could tell he was watching from the window. I didn't know if it was instinct from his military days or just a politician's habit. But he wasn't letting his guard down. Karen, meanwhile, pulled out her phone, turned slightly away, and started making quiet calls. I couldn't hear the full conversation, but words like non-compliant structure, violation, and possible security breach floated through the air. That's when two more SUVs rolled down the gravel path. My stomach dropped. One had government plates. The other didn't. Men in suits stepped out, one of them with an earpiece. They didn't look like local officials. Karen lit up, thinking they were backing her up. She marched toward them, arms flailing, acting like she'd just won the HOA championship. But the way they brushed past her without even a nod said otherwise. They came straight to me. "Sir," one of them said quietly, "we need to secure the property. No one leaves, not yet." I glanced at the governor through the window. He gave the slightest nod, like he'd been expecting this. Karen, now confused and clearly excluded from whatever was unfolding, demanded answers. "I need to know what's going on. I represent the community. This is my jurisdiction." One of the men turned to her with a calm but clear voice. "Ma'am, this is now a matter of state security. Please step away from the cabin." That's when the gravity of the situation hit me. Whatever was happening inside this lake cabinet wasn't just personal anymore. Something big was about to unfold. Karen backed off, but not quietly. She stood a few feet away, arms crossed, mumbling about lawsuits and rights, but no one was listening. The agents were moving quickly now, circling the cabin and checking the perimeter like something or someone might be approaching. One of them lifted a satellite phone and muttered a few words I couldn't catch. I turned to the governor, hoping he'd explain what was really going on. He finally stepped back outside, face calm, but eyes sharp. "I didn't come here just to rest," he said, keeping his voice low. "There's been chatter, serious chatter. Someone inside the state office has been leaking classified information. I couldn't trust anyone downtown, so I needed a place off-grid. Your dad said this place was still safe." Before I could even react to that, one of the agents jogged over, holding a tablet. "Governor, we've got movement." Drone feed, just. Picked up a blacked-out vehicle heading down the East Trail. Not registered, no comms. The governor didn't flinch. How far out? Maybe 7 minutes. Armed, from the looks of it. That's when everything changed. Suddenly, this wasn't just about HOA drama or cabin zoning or even politics. This was about security. My cabin, my quiet escape, had somehow become the last line of defense. In something way bigger than I was ready for. Karen, now watching closely, must have sensed the shift too. Her voice turned sharp. "If this is some kind of government cover-up, the residents will find out. You can't keep secrets from a tax-paying community." The governor glanced at her, then me. "She needs to be inside. Now." Before I could argue, the agents moved. One guided Karen toward the front door, the other handed me a small black device. "This stays in your pocket. Press it if anything goes wrong." I didn't even know what wrong meant anymore. But the real twist came next. One of the agents whispered something to the governor, and his entire expression changed. Not fear, but recognition. And all he said was, "It's him." Who he was, I had no idea. But, judging by the way everyone suddenly tightened their grip on their radios, we were out of time. The tension was so thick, it felt like the air itself had stopped moving. Karen sat stiff on the cabin's old couch, eyes darting between the agents and the windows. Her bravado was gone now. The governor stood near the back door, staring out toward the trees, listening to every crackle of the radio. And me. I was standing in my own kitchen, holding a device I didn't understand. In a house I no longer recognized. Then, headlights cut through the trees. A black SUV rolled slowly down the dirt trail, just like the agents had warned. No plates, tinted windows. It stopped 20 feet from the front porch. No one got out at first, just silence. The governor motioned everyone to hold position. Even the agents looked unsure. Then the back door of the SUV opened. A tall man stepped out. No visible weapons, but his presence felt heavier than anything I'd ever experienced. The governor muttered under his breath, "He shouldn't be here." The man spoke without raising his voice. "Governor," he said off-grid, not out of reach. "You broke the deal." One of the agents stepped forward, hand near his holster. "Step back." The man raised his hands casually. "Relax, I didn't come for a fight. I came for the drive." Everything stopped. The governor looked at me, then back at the man. "I destroyed it." "No," the man replied calmly. "You gave it to someone. You gave it to him." He pointed straight at me. My stomach dropped. The device in my pocket, just a panic button. No. The weight made sense now. It wasn't just a tracker or a backup. It was the encrypted drive. I looked at the governor. "You gave it to me." He nodded. "Because I trust you. And because you're the only one not tied to any of this mess." The agents moved in fast, surrounding the man who didn't even flinch. Karen screamed as the cabin burst into action. Lights, voices, a second SUV charging in behind. And just when I thought it was over, the man smiled, leaned in slightly and said, "This isn't the end. It's just your beginning." Then everything went dark. When the lights came back on, the man was going escorted by federal agents into the night. The threat, at least for now, had passed. The governor turned to me, his face a mix of relief and apology. "You handled that better than some of my own people," he said quietly. I didn't feel like I had handled anything. I felt like a guy who came to fix a leaky pipe and found himself caught in the middle of something out of a spy novel. Karen didn't say much after that. She left the cabin without another word, barely able to look me in the eye. I think it finally hit her. This place wasn't just another HOA battlefield. Later, I heard she quietly stepped down from the HOA board, citing personal reflection. The governor stayed behind for another day. We sat on the porch that evening, looking out over the still lake. He explained that the drive I'd unknowingly been carrying contained sensitive, dated evidence that could expose years of political corruption, not just leaks. It needed to be hidden until the right people were in place to act. That's why my dad had agreed to help, and why, in the end, it came to me. By the time he left, I knew the cabin would never feel the same. It wasn't just a family retreat anymore, it was part of something bigger. But it was still mine, and it still stood for something. A place of peace, of trust, and maybe even redemption. So, yeah. The lake cabin drama with the HOA didn't turn out the way anyone expected. But sometimes, the quietest places hold the loudest secrets. And as for that line the man said before he left, "This is just your beginning." Well, I still don't know exactly what he meant, but I have a feeling I'm going to find out.